Cus D'Amato was my everything. He made me believe in myself more than anyone ever could. Mike Tyson's words capture the power of a man who never threw a pro punch but created champions with his mind. Blinded in one eye and barred from boxing, Cus built warriors from the ground up, training Floyd Patterson, Jose Torres, and adopting a young, angry Mike Tyson. He taught them that fear wasn't weakness, it was a weapon. His peekaboo style revolutionized defense, but his greatest legacy was belief. Cus didn't live to see Tyson become the youngest heavyweight champion, but make no mistake, he built him for that moment. Growing up in the poverty-stricken streets of the Bronx, Cus D'Amato learned early that strength wasn't optional, it was necessary. In a neighborhood where fear ruled and futures were fragile, young Cus forged his own path. He was one of 8 children in a poor Italian immigrant family struggling just to get by. Surrounded by crime, gang influence, and the constant pressure of survival, Cus didn't have the luxury of a carefree childhood, but even then, there was something different about him. He was intense, fiercely curious, and never one to back down, even when the odds were stacked high. While other kids play, Cus studied people. He watched, he learned, and he questioned everything. The kind of kid who'd one day shape warriors. Isn't it wild how the hardest beginnings often create the strongest minds? At just 12 years old, he'd already learned to walk with his fists clenched and his eyes sharp. But nothing could prepare him for that day when a grown man, mean, drunk, and twice Cus's size, started picking on kids in the neighborhood. He didn't flinch. Cus stepped in, standing between the man and a terrified boy. The man laughed. "You think you're tough, kid?" Then came the punch. A blue, bare-knuckled blow smashed into Cus's face, catching his right eye. A white-hot flash of pain exploded in his head. Blood poured, his vision blurred. But he didn't go down. He didn't cry. He charged. Blinded and dazed, Cus ran after the man, fists swinging and heart on fire. The bully turned and bolted, because even grown men know when they've awakened something dangerous. That single act of defiance cost Cus his vision in one eye. Doctors later told him he'd never boxed professionally, which was his passion. Most boys would have folded. Cus didn't. That moment of pain, fury, and resolve lit the fuse. He wouldn't become a fighter in the ring. He'd become something far greater, a maker of champions. But the reality hit hard fast. He'd never be cleared to fight in the ring. It was devastating. Cus D'Amato didn't just want to be a boxer. He breathed it. Boxing was more than a dream. It was a lifeline, a fire in his chest that refused to go out. He studied fighters, mimicking their moves in cracked mirrors, ducking invisible punches and throwing haymakers at shadows. In back alleys and basements, he trained like his life depended on it. Because in his world it did. Every jab was a rebellion against poverty. Every combo was a cry for something greater. The ring wasn't a place to compete. It was where he could matter. Stripped of his chance to fight professionally, Cus became obsessed, not just with boxing technique, but with the psychology behind it. In his late 20s, scraping together whatever he could from odd jobs and hustling around New York, Cus managed to open a small gym, not out of privilege, but out of pure will. His biological family didn't support his dream. They didn't understand why he was so fixated on boxing, or why he chose a life of struggle when easier paths were available. That disconnect left Cus feeling isolated, like he was fighting not only the world but the people closest to him. That lack of support only pushed him deeper into isolation, reinforcing his belief that no one else could see what he saw. Alone but undeterred, he turned that loneliness into fuel. His gym became his sanctuary, and the fighters who wandered into it, lost, angry, broken, became the family he chose. He trained boxers. He rebuilt broken souls. When young men like Floyd Patterson and later Jose Torres walked into his gym, they weren't champions. They were lost, angry, and full of fear. But Cus saw something deeper, potential buried under pain. He didn't just lace their gloves, he reached into their minds. He taught them that boxing wasn't about violence, it was about mastering emotion. Fear, he told them, is the greatest opponent you'll ever face. He showed them how to face it, own it, and weaponize it. In a world that wanted them to explode, he taught them how to stay composed. When the bell rang, it wasn't just fists flying. It was years of rage, trauma, and doubt being transformed into focus, rhythm, and belief. He didn't just give them a strategy for the ring. He gave them control over their own narrative. Under Cus's care, these young men didn't just learn how to fight. They learned why they were fighting and who they could become if they stopped running from their fear. Cus D'Amato took Floyd Patterson and Jose Torres from obscurity to greatness, molding them with the same hands that once trembled with his own lost dream. Floyd was a quiet, emotionally scarred kid when he met Cus, so shy he could barely make eye contact. But Cus saw a spark and relentlessly nurtured it, training him, drilling discipline into his bones, and teaching him to fight with both heart and mind. Floyd would go on to become the youngest heavyweight champion in history at that time, and the first to ever regain the title after losing it. Then came Jose Torres, a fiery Puerto Rican fighter with raw skill and sharp intellect. Cus didn't just train Jose physically, he challenged him mentally, pushing him to think like a strategist, not just a slugger. Under Cus's guidance, Jose became the first Puerto Rican to win a world light heavyweight title, a champion with both power and class. Together, these men were living proof of Cus's genius, not just training fighters, but creating men who conquered fear, silenced doubt, and made history. Sometimes, destiny doesn't knock. It crashes in wearing handcuffs and a broken heart. That's how Cus D'Amato met Mike Tyson, a 13-year-old whirlwind of rage and pain, fresh out of juvenile detention with a criminal record longer than his future. A troubled kid from the brutal streets of Brooklyn, Tyson had been abandoned by his father and raised in a home torn apart by poverty, fear, and instability. His mother, Lorna, was still alive but overwhelmed, emotionally distant, struggling to hold the family together, and barely able to manage the storm building inside her son. When Cus saw Tyson for the first time at the Tryon School for Boys, he didn't see a lost cause. He saw a frightened, furious child carrying years of silent suffering in his fists. "This kid," Cus said, "could be the greatest fighter the world has ever seen. And maybe, just maybe, that greatness could save them both." Tyson was everything Cus once was. Angry, misunderstood, and desperate for guidance. Their bond wasn't forged in the gym. It was forged in pain, purpose, and the need for someone to believe in them. That visit to Tryon changed everything. After witnessing Tyson's raw potential, Cus knew he couldn't just walk away. This kid wasn't just a fighter. He was a force waiting to be shaped. Cus worked with the authorities to gain Tyson's trust, provide structure, and eventually become his legal guardian. Over the next 2 years, Cus pulled Tyson out of the juvenile system and brought him to live in his home in Catskill, New York, where the real transformation began. Their bond was more than coach and fighter. It was father and son. Tyson later said, "He was the only person who ever believed in me." Cus filled the emotional void left by Tyson's absent father and overwhelmed mother, not just training him in boxing, but raising him as his own. Constant head movement and powerful counterpunching. But even more importantly, he taught him how to control the mind. The hero and the coward feel the same thing, but the hero uses his fear, projects it onto his opponent, while the coward runs. Cus drilled into Tyson that the fight is won before you even enter the ring. He told him, "You're going to be the youngest heavyweight champion in the world." And Tyson believed him, because Cus believed it first. Their relationship was intense, tender, and built on mutual salvation. Cus never married, never having children of his own. Mike Tyson moves in. The atmosphere shifts. The gym may be where they train, but the real transformation happens at home, over quiet meals, early morning talks, and the steady rhythm of trust being built. Tyson becomes what is like a son, and in that house, Camille Ewald plays a vital role. She's not just keeping the kitchen warm or the rooms in order. She's the heart of the home. A lifelong friend to Cus and a nurturing presence, Camille steps in as a mother figure, providing the comfort and care that both Cus and Mike never truly had. Together, the three of them create more than a household. They build a refuge. The bell rings. And like a loaded cannon, Mike charges. Every ounce of rage, discipline, and purpose explodes from his fists as he moves with terrifying precision. With each fight, Tyson wasn't just gaining experience, he was becoming a weapon. Cus made sure he wasn't thrown into the spotlight too fast. He wanted Mike to earn his confidence, not borrow it. He guided him like a master chess player, protecting him from distractions, teaching him how to intimidate before even throwing a punch. Under Cus's sharp eye, Mike wasn't fighting for attention. He was fighting with a destiny stitched into every jab. The ring wasn't new to Tyson. It was home, and Cus had spent years preparing him to own it. And then, the vision becomes reality. At just 20 years old, Mike Tyson steps into the ring and demolishes Trevor Berbick in 2 electrifying rounds, becoming the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history. The arena erupts with thunderous cheers, cameras flash like lightning, but as the adrenaline fades and the noise softens for just a moment, Tyson looks around, and there's no Cus in sight, no proud smile from the man who raised him, no words of wisdom in his ear. Just the cold truth. Cus D'Amato had died 1 year earlier. The spotlight shines, but grief sits heavy in its glow. As the world applauded Tyson's rise and etched his name into history, somewhere in the silence, you could almost see Cus, standing alone in his old gym, the smell of sweat and sawdust in the air, watching a scared kid hit the heavy bag with all the pain in the world behind each punch. You could see young Cus too, a boy with one blind eye, standing in a cracked mirror in the Bronx, shadowboxing against the weight of the world. You could see him pacing the floor with Floyd Patterson, whispering that he was destined for greatness. You could see him reading psychology books late at night, searching for ways to reach his fighters' hearts, not just their hands. Cus never fought a pro bout, but he gave everything he had to a calling greater than himself. He trained 3 world champions, yes, but more importantly, he transformed lost boys into legends. Because sometimes the greatest warriors are the ones who never throw a punch, but teach the world how to fight.